Family is one of the most important things to me. We are a group that has done everything together, from vacations to sports. But the bond that my grandpa and I share is a crazier relationship than most people's, I would say. As a little kid, we would always go down to the pool at his house. Me and all my other cousins would hop into the pool all through the summer. It was our hangout spot since he lived so close to us. We would all head over at least twice a week and swim for hours on end. During my 7th grade year, him and my dad took the junior high coaching position, which made our dynamic change just a little. It was really tough for me to call him coach. How was I going to call my sweet old grandpa coach when I'm just 12 years old? Well, I learned fast that sweet was only a term for grandson Seth, and not the player Seth. Did I forget to mention he was a coach in the 1970s where the coaching style was a little bit different than it is today? I think I should have known I was going to receive different treatment from him that I was used to, since I have heard some stories of his in the past. One example of this is one of our close family friends told us of when he used to play for my grandpa. He was an offensive lineman for the team, and in one practice he got knocked flat on his back, to which my grandpa quickly shouted back at him, "Get up, fat boy!" Granted, I heard the story when I was younger, so there's a chance he could have used more intense language in the real story. So I was coached by my grandpa the same way he treated others. Got yelled at when I needed to, had to do the punishments just like everyone else. I would get all worried he may have actually been mad at me one day, but as soon as practice was over, he switched back into grandpa mode and would swing his arm around me and we'd go our happy way. Having him as a coach really made me appreciate the time we have together. Another dynamic of our relationship is our love for Kentucky. He grew up in small town Pineville, lived there for a good portion of his life, being turned into an all-star athlete on a team that was not very all-star. I say this because of a story he told me where he scored 41 points in a basketball game, which is great and all, but when your team only scores a total of 43 points, you still lose the game. We talk about Kentucky history all the time, but what we can talk about every time we see each other is the University of Kentucky sports. I have never seen someone at that age know more about college athletics than he does. Usually a guy at that age who knows a lot about college teams can give you a lot of players on the current roster and old roster, and that seems really cool. Well, my grandpa is one that follows recruiting. He throws out names all the time to me. I recall a conversation a year ago about how some guy named Tyler Hero was coming to play from Wisconsin. I just laughed because he wasn't even near the top of the best high school players. Surely he won't be an impact player. Fast forward to today, and that same guy was our second best player on the team, hit a game winner in the NCAA tournament, and is now projected to go in the first round of the NBA draft as a freshman. I have now tend to believe that everything the man says is true, and I just go along with everything else he says because he has not told many lies overall. In addition, we have gotten to see the University of Kentucky play many times. Basketball games in Lexington, Kentucky are some of the most exciting experiences a sports fan can see, since it is at one of the most historic arenas in the world, while watching the team with the most wins all time also helps. And oftentimes you will get to see a lot of famous celebrities. For example, we got to meet Hall of Fame coach Joe B. Hall, who led the Wildcats to a championship in 1978. But overall, it's a fun experience. We really enjoy our visits to Lexington, Kentucky every time we go. However, there was a period where we didn't get to be as lucky as we usually were. Around my sophomore year of high school, he came down with an illness and no one really knew what was going on. Many tests and small procedures wouldn't cure what was wrong with him, and he just kept getting worse and worse and had to travel all the time, which put him in a lot of pain, both physically and emotionally. I had never seen him so sad before in my life. Here is a guy who usually is off the wall happy and singing and whatever comes to mind, and then I hear things like he hasn't smiled or laughed in a week. I was completely heartbroken. However, it wasn't going to stop me from trying to make him feel better. One day I went to visit when he was at his worst. Doctors were pretty sure he wasn't going to survive the previous week, and the next week didn't seem as hopeful either. And I just decided I would just pull up a chair and talk with him for hours on end. And who really knows what we talked about that day, whether it was just some dumb joke we both made that he remembered, or some old war stories of his past, or just Kentucky basketball as we usually do. We really just had a conversation like nothing was really wrong. After that, I was dubbed the Grandpa Whisperer and knew how to make him feel better no matter what was going on. Since then, he's gotten better, and my relationship with my grandpa has been just like old times. We can always just sit and shoot the breeze. My grandpa has a quote about me whenever I had a game or a track meet. I can always hear him in his slight southern accent saying, "He's a gamer," meaning I could go out and just compete with whoever I was against, no matter how much better or worse they were than me. Well, that's the same way I think about him. No matter what he is up against, I know my grandpa has been through so much that he can get through it with the biggest smile across his face at all times.